Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a story that explores the tangled webs of friendship, ambition, and the shadows that can grow between even the closest of allies. It's a tale called The Shadow and the Betrayal. Our story begins in the bustling city of Eldoria, a place of gleaming spires and cobblestone streets, where two young mages, Kale and Alara, were inseparable. They weren't just friends. They were two halves of a whole. Kale was a prodigy of light magic, his spells weaving warmth and healing, his presence a beacon of hope. Alara, on the other hand, was drawn to the subtle and complex arts of shadow magic, a discipline often misunderstood and feared. She saw its potential not for evil, but for protection, for uncovering secrets, and for maintaining balance. Together, they were unstoppable. They trained side by side at the Grand Academy, their combined powers creating a symphony of light and shadow that left their instructors in awe. Kale would conjure brilliant shields of light, and Alara would weave illusions to misdirect their opponents. They dreamed of becoming the city's greatest protectors. Their bond, a testament to the idea that light and shadow could coexist in perfect harmony. They made a promise under the twin moons of Eldoria to always have each other's backs, no matter what challenges they faced. Their futures seemed as bright as the spells Kale could cast. But ambition is a curious thing. As they grew older and more powerful, the whispers of the city began to change. Kale was celebrated, lauded as the city's shining star. He was invited to royal banquets, his deeds sung by bards in every tavern. The people saw him as their savior, their golden boy. Alara, however, was met with suspicion. Her mastery of the shadows, once seen as a strategic asset alongside Kale, was now viewed with fear. Murmurs followed her through the streets. "Shadow Weaver," they'd whisper. "Can she be trusted?" Kale, caught up in the glow of public adoration, started to distance himself. At first, it was subtle. He'd be too busy to train with her, citing duties with the royal guard. He would gently suggest she practice her magic in less public places. He'd say things like, "Alara, people are just not ready to understand. Maybe if you focused on more conventional magic." Each word was a small chip in the foundation of their friendship. Alara felt a growing coldness, a void where their shared warmth used to be. The praise Kale received seemed to cast a longer and longer shadow, and she found herself standing alone within it. The turning point came during the Great Crystal Crisis. A powerful, dark artifact known as the Void Crystal was discovered beneath the city, its energy threatening to corrupt everything it touched. The city's council was in a panic. Kale, as the celebrated hero, was tasked with neutralizing it. He tried, casting his most powerful spells of light, but the crystal only seemed to absorb the energy, growing stronger and more menacing. His light, for the first time, was not enough. Watching from the sidelines, Alara knew what needed to be done. She understood the Void Crystal's nature. It fed on pure energy, but it was vulnerable to its own essence shadow. It was a delicate, dangerous dance. She could use her shadow magic to envelop the crystal, not to destroy it, but to contain it, to soothe its chaotic energy and guide it into a dormant state. It was a technique she had spent years perfecting, one she believed could save them all. She approached Kale, explaining her plan. "Kale, let me help. I can contain it. Your light antagonizes it, but my shadows can calm it." But Kale, his pride wounded from his failure, and his mind clouded by the council's fearful whispers about her magic, refused to listen. He saw her offer not as help, but as a challenge to his authority, to his identity as the city's savior. "No, Alara," he said, his voice cold. "Your magic is too risky. We can't trust the shadows with something this important. I will find another way." But there was no other way, and the crystal's dark energy began to pulse violently. Cracking the foundations of the chamber, panic erupted. With a heavy heart, Ilara knew she couldn't wait for his permission. The city, and the friend she once knew, were in mortal danger. She had to act. Pushing past the guards, she stepped forward, her hands outstretched, as she began to weave her intricate web of shadows around the pulsating crystal. The city held its breath. As Ilara's shadows enveloped the void crystal, a hush fell over the chamber. The violent pulsing slowed, the angry purple glow softened, and the ground stopped shaking. She was doing it. She was saving them. But as she poured her energy into the containment spell, a sharp, blinding pain erupted in her back. She gasped, stumbling forward. Turning her head, she saw the unthinkable. Kale stood behind her, his hand glowing with residual light magic, his face a mask of conflict and fear. He had struck her. "What have you done?" she whispered, her strength failing. Kale looked at the crystal, now calm, and then at the horrified faces of the council members. He had a choice to make in that split second. He could admit his fear, his mistake, his jealousy, or he could save his reputation. He chose the latter. She was losing control. He shouted, his voice ringing with false authority. The shadow magic was corrupting her. I had to stop her before she merged with the crystal and became an even greater threat. The council, already predisposed to fear Ilara's magic, immediately accepted his version of events. They saw not a hero saving her city, but a shadow weaver who had been stopped just in time by their golden boy. Betrayal, colder and sharper than any blade, pierced Ilara's heart. As the guards surrounded her, she looked at Kale, searching for a flicker of the friend she once knew. But all she saw was a stranger, a man who had chosen the warmth of the spotlight over the loyalty of his oldest friend. He had let the shadow of his own ambition consume the light of their bond. They cast her out, exiling her from the city she had just saved. Kale was hailed as a hero, twice over, first for trying to stop the crystal, and second for saving the city from Ilara. He received the highest honors, his legend cemented in the history of Eldoria. But his victory was hollow. Every night, when the city was quiet, the shadow of his betrayal would creep into his heart. He had the adoration of thousands, but he had lost the one person who truly knew him. He was the hero of light, but he lived in a darkness of his own making. And Ilara, in her exile, she found a new strength. The betrayal had hurt, but it had not broken her. She learned that shadows weren't just for hiding or fighting, they were also for healing the deepest wounds. She understood that true light doesn't come from a spell or public praise, but from the integrity within. The story of Kale and Ilara became a whispered legend in Eldoria, cautionary tale about how the brightest light can cast the darkest shadow, and how betrayal is often born not from hatred, but from fear. Thank you so much for joining me on this narrative journey today. Stories like this remind us to look closely at our own relationships and the choices we make. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Kale's decision. Until next time, stay curious and take care.